Man, we are a race of warriors, priests, philosophers, artists, inventors. We have been responsible for changing the entire earth, baby. We did it. No other son of a bitch did it but you. Your people did that. And never let anybody else take any credit for it, because your people did it. We have changed the standard of living for the entire world's populations, and now they hate us for it. Yet I tell you, they've always hated you. But in times past, they respected you because they knew they damn well could not conquer you.
Determined to be the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today. White supremacy is terrorism.
Are we all equal? If we take three families, and we'll call them family A, B, and C. Now these are racial families. And each family starting out will consist of 5 men, 5 women, and 10 children. And we set them side by side, but enough room to do what they have to do. And we tell them to build a dwelling, provide for your families, till the soil, and do what you have to do to go further in life. Now, what would happen if we were to come back 25 years later, 100 years later, and check on these families? Now, it should be noted that family C, they are more intelligent than family B. In fact, they are the sworn adversary of family A. You must remember that. Family C is the sworn adversary of family A. However, family A is somewhat special. In fact, they are really, really special, because they are the actual family of God Almighty that He put on this earth. Family A is told that because you are my people on this earth, you cannot have anything to do with the other families. Now let's wait a few generations, and then we'll go back and check on those 3 families and see how they are progressing. For now, how many times have you seen a sign that said wet paint? Wet paint, do not touch. Most of the time you can use your eyes, you can use your sense of smell, and you can see, yep, it's wet paint, should not touch it. Yet there always seems to be somebody that even when they know it's wet paint, don't touch, they touch it anyway. Why is it that people have to find out things the hard way? Why can we not heed warnings, be well served, and be free of the pain that comes from learning the hard way? Not much is different in this world. Now, the person who touched the wet paint, they got to go home. They got to take the time and the effort to get the wet paint off. Why? What purpose did it serve? Because they wanted to touch. The one true Creator and Father told his children, do not touch. And well, they just have to touch. Going back to the Garden of Eden, Eve had to touch when she was told not to. Now, we are told not to touch the unclean thing. Does this mean pigs, cups, plates, or does it mean other people, or can it mean all of that? Let's take a minute before we get deep into this, and let's talk about the word touch and its implications in a biblical perspective. Let's put it in its proper context. We are in the Bible told not to touch animals, dead people, clothes, certain people, foods, and so much more. Why did the Father give us these direct orders, which is called a commandment? Because the Father knows what is best for his children. In fact, the Father knows it all because he created us. The problem is people do not listen. Frankly, most folks just don't care. So let the punishment come upon them that have been given many warnings. Do not touch. But in his mercy, the Father said, do not touch. Let the punishment come upon those who have seen the warnings and said, I'm going to touch anyway. They continue to thumb their nose at these warnings. Now, we are preaching to those who want to do it right in these final hours. So let's talk about touching and let's get deep into it. All through the life of Jesus, people wanted to touch him. How could you not? But it was a different form of touching. Jesus even told Mary, do not touch me, for I am not ascended yet to my Father. It seemed that when he was resurrected, there was something about an aura about his body that was so electric and so powerful that it would have hurt Mary Magdalene to actually touch him. The word touch has many implications, many. Now, we can touch something simply by looking at it or partaking of it. For example, if you watch filth from Hollywood, you are actually touching it. You see, biblically speaking, spiritually speaking, if you watch filth, smut, porno, you are touching it. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 2 and 3 and 4, and the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God had said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall surely not die. The lie, the great lie that continues to this day. Proverbs 6:29, so he that goeth into his neighbor's wife, which means he that has sex, whosoever toucheth her shall not be innocent. They had sex, illicit sex. Proverbs 30:20, such is the way of an adulterous woman, she eateth and wipeth her mouth and saith, I have done no wickedness. Now when it says she has wiped her mouth, it does not mean she actually wipes her physical mouth. It's talking about her private parts. Let's be adults and let's learn the truth. There was some touching going on that should not be going on. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verses 17 through 18. And this is referring to idols, but so I want you to know that so you will know the proper context. Please get out your Bibles and read these verses with me. If there's anything that you don't think is right, get out the Bible and make sure that it's right. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verses 17 and 18. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. And I will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. Numbers 16:26. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins. Not touching, brother. Staying away from the touching. Remember, there's different types of touching. You can touch physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You can touch. Even if you participate, you can touch with your eyes. 1 John 5:18. We know that whosoever is born of God sinneth not, but he that is begotten of God keepeth himself, and that wicked one toucheth him not. You see, the devil can't have you. Can't have you. Zechariah 2:8. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. When anybody puts their hands on you, tries to harm you, they are touching the elect of the Almighty Father. So let's go back in time, brother. Let's go back 100 years and let's see how life is going for our three families before we go further. And then we'll check on them again. Family A has crops in the ground. They were strong. They built secure dwellings. They have livestock. They're strong and healthy. The men were blessed and made use of all the land, the animals, to make all the things needed for life. They irrigated. They built. They prospered. Now they're starting to branch out to the sea. They're starting to build ships. They're going to explore. They're going to be fruitful and to multiply. The family smiled. They knew they were doing as their Creator and Father had told them. There had been births. The children were growing and learning. The family was healthy. They were happy. They prayed together. They worshiped together. They did as their Father told them. Underline that. They did not deviate. They did exactly as Father said, do this, and they did it to the letter. To the letter. Even when family B and C tried to make contact, they avoided them. And if they came too close, they readied themselves for battle with prayer and weapons, and they would have been blessed. Family B, not so good. They're struggling. Yes, they have a sort of dwelling, if that's what you want to call it. The soil does not yield much, just barely enough to survive. The people of this family do not worship the God of our family. And whatever they worship could not do for them in any way the God of family A could. They're struggling bad. Now we get to family C. They're struggling too. They've made friends with family B only in order to use them to harm family A. Family C wakes up every day and they have but one purpose. They desire to cause as much pain, grief, and heartache as possible for family A. They really don't care about family B, but family B can never really understand this. Now I tell you what we'll do. Let's come back in a couple thousand years and let's check on those families again and see how things are going. Jacob, Israel were kind to a fault. And what is the fault? It's that we do not listen. As hard as it may seem, and you may say, my conscience, but my conscience. If God tells you to avoid something, anything, then you damn well better do it. If your father gives you a commandment, then you better heed it. I teach my son the things that we've talked about now. In fact, I've taught my son more than I've taught about these issues my son and I have talked about for years. It's something that the Father just now has me doing in my ministry. If that's what you want to call it, it seems like that's what the Father is calling it. I've taught my son all these things. And as I was teaching him about who he was, where he comes from, about Jacob, Israel, my son used to say, but Daddy, what about the other people? What about the other people? I began to get angry. In fact, I got pissed more than a few times. What do you mean the other people? Why are you more concerned about the other people than your own people? You see, because we grew up in a very diverse place. I grew up in what some people would call the hood. Now, my son, not so much, but he grew up kind of liberal. No, he didn't get it from me. He got it from society. All right? So he's concerned about what about the other families? What about the other people? You see, Jacob, Israel has become more concerned with other families than their own family. And it's our ancestors who at times did the same thing. Again, when we do this, we are point blank telling our Father, I know you said for me to do this, but I'd rather think and see it a different way. Now, let me explain to you now, brethren. We are clean now through Jesus Christ. Now, I don't know my complete history of how pure I am in my generations. Noah was perfect in his generations, says the Bible. So was Daniel. Now, we have no way of knowing if great-great-granny may have some skeletons in the closet or granddaddy may have been doing some really bad things. We just don't know. And I have put this to white people before, especially in the Christian identity movement, only to have them get angry because nobody knows the truth of what's on down there a couple hundred years. They just don't know. Only Father knows these things. The people that are from our line, our family, had a choice to make when it came to other people. And the way our Father commanded his children to eat, live, eat, sleep, work, pray, and everything in this life. Our Father loved us so much that he has never forsaken you or me. Ever. When we failed at the highest level, he sent a part of himself in the form of Jesus and allowed himself to be murdered for us. Now that seems like a whole lot of love to me, man. Now, either your ancestors did what the Father told them, or they did not. Either they felt his blessing or his wrath. It's not difficult, brethren, unless you want to make it difficult. You either listen to the Father or you listen to the synagogue of Satan to try. They will explain to you the way they think life should be. That's where we're at now. Right now, you have the choice to choose what's clean and unclean. You are accountable. This is not to tell you to ignore and or be rude, to disrespectful to other peoples that you may come in contact with. No, not at all. It's a message that what we must do as our Father tells us. Brethren, this is what life is really about. When you are judged, you are going to be held accountable. Now, did you get it together and do right by your Father in Jesus Christ? We have to live in a world that is evil as hell, out of control, filled with lies 24/7. We have to see things that anger us, hurt us, and make us want to grit our teeth. And sometimes it's good that you do grit your teeth because it means that you care. Sometimes we have to be around people that hate us and are pure evil, and they are not a part of our family. And the Father has certainly said they can never be a part of my family. However, we must live here, and we must overcome, as Jesus said. Those who endureth to the end will be saved. Now, Jacob, Israel, you sons and daughters of Jacob, you are not consumed unless you want to be. You can wake up every day of your life, and as much as possible, as much as you possibly can, you can live peaceably around people. The way Paul said, as much as lieth in you, which means as much as you can before you have to get to the line till you know that I can't take any more because I ain't really supposed to be around you here. Because you don't believe like me, you don't think like me, you don't worship the same God as me. Your Father is well aware of how hard our journey is and the conditions of which we live under. Even still, It is no excuse, because as Jesus said, all things are possible with God. And avoiding the unclean thing as best you can, there will be times that you cannot do it. Such is the way of the world. Sometimes in just living, we come in contact with unclean things. Use your spirit. This is why we've talked so much on this channel about spirit. Spirit, spirit, spirit. It lives in you. It guides you. It will guide you and show you how to get out of particular situations that are harmful to you and how to handle them when you are around unclean things, conditions, and people. Underline people. Your Father understands. Your Father understands. Really. You have to, brethren, you got to understand, your Father knows what we are going through. Don't you think He understands how hard it is for us? I mean, if He don't, who does? You can pray for wisdom and understanding to avoid and ignore all the unclean things. You can do this. This also includes liars, cons, and shills who teach our people lies and keep them enthralled with cheap-ass entertainment. And pharmakia, which is what Jesus referred to as sorcery. His people have been destroyed. The great merchants have destroyed our people with sorcery. The word sorcery comes from the Greek word pharmakia. You see, the legal dope is worse than the illegal dope. We can take better care of our temples if we would try. We can devote ourselves to our Father and Jesus like never before. Man, we are a race of warriors, priests, philosophers, artists, inventors. We have been responsible for changing the entire earth, baby. We did it. No other son of a bitch did it but you. Your people did that. And never let anybody else take any credit for it, because your people did it. We have changed the standard of living for the entire world's populations, and now they hate us for it. Yet I tell you, they've always hated you. But in times past, they respected you because they knew they damn well could not conquer you. We accomplished all these things through hard work. And most importantly, we did as our Father told us. We had His blessing. And with His blessing, listen to me, brethren, with the Father's blessing, there are no limits. No limits. And how you dare put any on yourself. And how dare you put any limits on your Father? If you are walking with His Son, Jesus Christ, which is what He told us to do, how dare you put any limits on Him? Do not be afraid to expect much of who you are. Do not be afraid to go outside of yourself and think that you can do more. You can be more. I'm not talking about the material world. I'm talking about in your growth. And if you are going all in with your Father, do not be afraid to expect mighty help from Him. When you ask, believe it. Father, I need help. Father, you promised me that I can have these things. I believe. I'm giving you everything that I've got. Your Father will give you more than you understand. Then you can understand what it means to be a true Israelite. Then you can understand what it means to really be of the family of Jacob, Israel, man co-ruling with God. Now, in closing, let's look at those families and see how they're faring now. Well, as I look, what we have is a major crime scene. To know how the families are doing thousands of years later, just look at the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Scandinavia, and all other countries that come from Jacob, Israel. The people wanted to touch and be like others. So those same families, many of the sons and daughters decided to join family B and C. They decided to fall captive. They decided to get into it. They wanted to be like them. They wanted to be friends with them. They made their bed. Now get up in it, cover up, curl up in it. It's yours to have. What you have left, brethren, now are a few sons and daughters who are loyal to the end. And for this, we will be greatly rewarded. They will be the real warriors, the kings, queens, and priests. We are the loyal children of the Most High Father. We are what's left of Jacob, Israel. We are. Nobody else is. We are. Now, nothing or no one can take that from you unless you choose to give it to them. If you choose to give it to them. Now, I am in need of doing some things in my personal life and my ministry. I'll be away from now until about late October. Please check out the work that you've missed, or hey, watch it again if it moved you. If you need me, you can email me. My email is in the menu box.